Hello, youth group. Just wanted to give another quick challenge from our Hebrews 11 passage. Hopefully, everybody's doing well this week. It is definitely getting warmer, and hopefully, enjoying some of that. Maybe getting in the pool if you have one. But let's jump into our Hebrews 11 passage for this week. Hebrews 11, verse 30. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell down after they'd been encircled for 7 days. Let's go and open in prayer. God, thank you for this Hall of Faith, this continued study we're doing through this. I pray that it would be an encouragement to our faith, that we would trust in you more. In your name, amen. Again, a familiar passage. The walls of Jericho. We've sung kids' songs about them as we were younger in church. But let's go ahead and dig into the passage. Back in Joshua. Joshua is one of my favorite character studies to do. Just such a man of faith, where my life verse comes from there in Joshua 1:8. But let's go ahead and look at Joshua 6. And I want to read through this whole passage, and we'll kind of make some comments as we go. Now, Jericho was shut up inside now because of the people of Israel. And so, starting off here in this passage, we see we had them surrounded. They had them captured and put inside in what we would call a siege. Not sure how well Jericho was prepared for this siege, but they were shut up. They were fighting, and they had walls, and they were inside their cities. None went out, and none came in. And the Lord said to Joshua, "See, I have given Jericho into your hand, with its king and mighty men of valor." Here we have a promise. God said, "I've given you it. It's yours. It's king and all its mighty men of valor." And I'm sure as Joshua looked and go, well, they have massive walls. They have mighty men of valor. They have all these different things. How in the world is God going to give this city into our hands? You shall march around the city. Here's the plan. Here's the great plan that God's going to lay forth to defeat this mighty city. And I'm sure Joshua at first went, it seems kind of strange, but we see his faith throughout it. You shall march around the city, all the men of war going around the city once. Thus you shall do for 6 days. 7 priests shall bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark. On the 7th day you shall march around the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow the trumpets. And when they make that long blast of the ram's horn, you shall hear the sound of the trumpet, and all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the walls of the city will fall down flat, and the people shall go up, everyone straight before him. Here's the plan. That's how you're going to defeat this great city. You're going to play Ring Around the Rosie. You're going to play Duck Duck Goose with the city. You're going to run and walk around the city in silence, and it will fall down after a week. It doesn't seem like quite the mighty military plan that Joshua probably was thinking, but this was God's plan. And now here's the plan, and he requires the faith from the people of Israel and from Joshua, their leader. So Joshua, the son of Nun, called the priests and said to them, "Take the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord." And he said to the people, "Go forward, march around the city, and let the armed men pass on before the ark." And just as Joshua had commanded the people, the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horn before the Lord went forward, blowing the trumpets, with the ark of the covenant of the Lord following them. Doesn't sound like there was any delay. They went right forward. The armed men were walking before the priests who were blowing trumpets, and the rear guard was walking after the ark, while the trumpets blew continually. I'm sure the people of Jericho looked out and were like, "Never seen this before, but it doesn't seem too harmful. They're just walking around our city and shouting and blowing trumpets. Doesn't seem like it'll be too bad." But Joshua commanded the people, "You shall not shout or make your voice heard, neither shall any word go out of your mouth until the day I tell you to shout. Then you shall shout." Walking around in complete silence. I'm sure as people looked down, they were looking up at them and wanting to maybe comment on that, but they kept silent. They obeyed. So he caused the ark of the Lord to circle the city, going about it once. And they came into the camp and spent the night in the camp. Then Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord. And the 7 priests bearing the trumpets of the ram's horns before the ark of the Lord walked on and blew the trumpets continually, and the armed men were walking before them, and the rear guard was walking after the ark of the Lord, while the trumpets blew continually, and they're going to continue to do this. As we see on the second day, they marched around the city once and returned to the camp. So they did for 6 days. On the seventh day, they rose early. I'm sure Joshua, with great anticipation, was excited to see what God was going to do. It's finally the seventh day, and God's promised to give the city into their hands. On the seventh day, they rose early, at the dawn of day, marched around the city 7 times. At the seventh time, when the priests had blown the trumpets, Joshua said to the people, "Shout, for God has given you this city. And the city and all that are within it shall be devoted to the Lord for destruction. Only Rahab the prostitute and all who are in her house shall live, because she hid the messengers whom we sent." We're going to talk about Rahab next week. That's the next verse um, that is in our passage of Hebrews 11. And it's neat to see God would even use somebody and put somebody who directed their faith towards Him, even somebody such as a prostitute, would end up in this hall of faith. But you keep yourselves from the things devoted to destruction, lest when you have devoted them, you shall take any of the devoted things and make the camp of Israel a thing for destruction, and bring trouble upon it. So they've been given another command. There's going to be spoil. There's going to be things that you're going to want to take, but leave them. Don't take them. If you look at Israel's history, I don't remember the exact time, but there was a time when they did not obey this. They conquered a city and took the spoils, uh, and God punished them for that. But all silver and gold and every vessel of bronze and iron are holy to the Lord. They shall go into the treasury of the Lord. So the people shouted, and the trumpets were blown. As soon as the people heard the sound of the trumpet, they shouted with a great shout, and the walls fell flat. What a sight that would have been, to follow a week-long obedience of God's plan, and then to see that come to fruition. So the people went up into the city, every man straight before him. They captured the city. Then they devoted all to the city to destruction, both men and women, young and old, oxen, sheep, and donkey, with the edge of the sword. Again, guys, this is a familiar passage. You probably knew much of that story, but what a thing they'd have to do. Put yourself in their shoes as they were told to walk around that city. You want me to walk around a city, and the walls are going to fall flat? Okay. And thankfully, they only had to wait a week. We've talked about maybe a Moses that had to wait years for his promise, um, the reward he gained from following God and associating with the Israelites. Noah, years, 50 to 100 years of building an ark for a colossal rainstorm that had never happened before. Like this, they had never seen a city fall by just walking around it. They trusted their God. God had been faithful to them, and they were going to be faithful to God. So how do we apply this? Faith. What is faith? A settled confidence in God, that He's going to do what He's promised. Faith continued to play a role in the nation of Israel capturing the promised land. It's called the promised land. God had promised it to them, but was giving commands along the way. You need to do this and follow through with it. And so kind of a timeline of even just this story. It started with their faith. It started with Joshua, a man of great faith, that God said, "Go. This is the plan." And maybe he could have looked at that plan and went, "Actually, so we kind of have this army, and we're kind of prepared to fight, and I like my plan better. We're going to attack the city of Jericho and try to knock the walls down, and forget this walk around the city plan that it just doesn't seem very military." But he didn't do that. He didn't once waver in his faith, as we see in this passage. So faith turned into obedience, and then obedience turned into reward. And guys, it's the same in our life. God's promised us things, and we've gone over that. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but guys, faith to obedience turns into reward. Whether that's an eternal reward that we gain forever. I love the statement that commentator made of Moses, that Moses chose to associate with the people of God, the Israelites, for 80 years, suffered affliction for 80 years, but was looking forward to a reward that he's been enjoying for 4,000 years, and that 4,000 years ain't going to end, ever. It's an eternal. And so 80 years compared to eternity, and he's already enjoyed 4,000 years of that. I think that's a pretty good trade-off. God has asked us to live for Him, to serve Him for such a short time on this earth. Life is but a vapor, appears for a little time and then vanisheth away. He's asked us to serve for that vapor of time, to have faith in Him, to obey Him for that vapor of time, and then He will reward us. And there's reward here on earth. that He's promised us. But wow, what a reward to look forward to in heaven. So, story of Jericho, a familiar one, but I hope it was an encouragement to you guys. I'll go and close in prayer. God, thank you for today. Thank you for these stories. Lord, so familiar, but yet so impactful as we put ourselves in the shoes of those that marched around Jericho, in the shoes of Joshua as he was given this plan. I pray that our faith would turn to obedience, and we look forward to the rewards that you've promised us. Just give us a great rest of this week, and in your name, amen. Hopefully we'll be meeting with the deacons and pastors soon, and look to come up with a plan that we can kind of get back into the swing of things. I know the governor has a new phase. It's going to be coming up soon that allows more people to meet together, and so hopefully we can get teen activities back rolling. And I know the first one's probably going to be just a big pizza party at our house, and just some time together as a youth group, catching up and just spending time together. I miss you guys, and I look forward to being back together again. See you guys.